Oops, let me back up. Okay, kind of go over who I am again for those folks that wasn't here earlier. I'm D.W. Lee. They call me Darkwing. I'm the Executive Director of the MABRC. I've been conducting research personally since 1991. I spent nearly 3,000 days in the field looking for the Bigfoot. I've had over 18 actual visual sightings of them. People may say, well, that's a lot of sightings, but 18 days out of 3,000. I mean, you really think about it, that's not really a lot of sightings. I've also had lots of other experiences related to possible Bigfoot activity. Eastern Oklahoma research, we've got a long history of research events due to our beginnings here in Eastern Oklahoma. Many of these events can be definitely attributed to Bigfoot. I've got to the point to where I say possible, purported, because until we actually see the Bigfoot do these themselves, we can't really say it was a Bigfoot that did it. Many of the MABRC researchers here have had actual experience and sightings of their own, and they can relate to them. And you see this little guy standing right here. This is basically our youngest member, Goose. He's out there busy looking for them Bigfoot with his binoculars. Oklahoma activity, we've had tracks, markers, eyewitness encounters, photographs, videos, audio, and other physical evidence. I don't know if you can see it real well, but these are huge, massive territory markers that we found in one of our research areas. This right here is about 50 feet tall. This tree bow here is about 40 feet tall. We actually found this in an area that we call Skillyville. It's actually a nursery area that we've been researching for about the last 8 years. One morning we go through there and boom, there it was. One of our founding members was involved in the Hanover Ridgewalker video. You can see this little dark spot right here. This is the actual Bigfoot going across the skyline there. One of the things that we like to do is at least once a year we go down on expedition to this same spot and hang out. That's what we're going to be doing this year on the Memorial Day expedition. You can actually find these on our YouTube channel and actually watch the video. I've got more videos here, but since we're kind of pressed for time and the weather, I am going to play this. This is the GCBRC Oklahoma footage. This is our predecessor organization. There was 5 researchers present. There was no moon. I mean, the area was completely dark. We just crawled into our vehicles because the temperature was at 7 degrees that night. We did see a large Bigfoot in 4x4 mode as it passed through between 2 of the vehicles. We was able to see it just from the ambient light coming from a house about a mile away. The video that you're getting ready to see was not discovered until a few days later. We had actually just thought the camera had fell over where we had it placed. But you're going to see, I'm hoping that it'll for the music and everything. I wanted to load this up. Welcome to the Bigfoot Field Guide informational series. And I can't fast forward it, folks, so you gotta listen to me on this. Research Center, our predecessors, on a recent expedition in Oklahoma in February of 2007. While no specific evidence exists that the events and the videos presented here are Bigfoot related, it did occur in that area with heavy Bigfoot activity. The field where these events took place several years ago saw 6 different witnesses observing 7 different Bigfoot on one night alone. In anticipation of tonight's events, the team gathered together in town for lunch before heading out to the site. Upon arriving, preparations were begun for the night's research. Several members started up a fire and began frying bacon up as an attraction. Other members positioned the DVR vehicle 100 feet into the field, with two other vehicles positioned inside the tree line, where they could observe the creek bed that formed a crescent around the north side of the field, about 75 feet into the woods. The DVR vehicle erected a dining fly over the rear of the vehicle to protect the DVR system from the elements, and also in hopes of making the locals curious enough to come closer. The DVR system in use for the night was a Dell small profile computer with a 17-inch flat screen as shown here. Inside it was a DVR capture card also shown here. The cameras are Aztec night vision capable cameras that are hardwired back to the DVR. These cameras have their own built-in infrared lighting that can display out to 30 feet perimeters in front of them. One camera was positioned to the northeast along the creek over 200 feet away. Another was positioned 100 feet to the southeast, while the third was positioned 100 feet to the southwest. Between the southern cameras, a small Honda generator was placed about 100 feet away to lessen the sound of it at night. A team member also set up some cutback trail cams with infrared flash along an area to the north of the field on the opposite side of the creek to catch anything moving down from that direction. Bait and gift stations were also set out to the northwest and northeast. After some quick recon work of the area, everyone gathered around the DVR where final adjustments were made before climbing into the vehicle and waiting. It had been discussed about sitting outside with a DVR and watch it. However, the temperature was getting into the high teens and made it very uncomfortable to stay outside during any length of time. With final adjustments made, a tarp was put over the table where the DVR sat, in case of rain that was predicted later for that night. The team members then hunkered down and tried to stay warm, all the while letting the DVR and cameras see what they could catch. At 7:20 p.m. and 20 seconds, the southeast camera is knocked askew and changes position in view. At 7:20 p.m. 21 seconds, the southwest camera is picked up and held by something. Original video shows what appears to be hair at times. The camera, however, at no time is pointed to any identifying characteristics that would identify what it was that picked it up. At 7:21 p.m. and 17 seconds, the southwest camera is set back down on the log it was setting on. Okay. Basically what happened is we had a spool that had all of our cable wrapped around it. And we had actually put the camera inside that spool. The next morning, we got up, the camera was actually outside of the spool laying on the stump that we had it on. Nobody really thought much about it. We just thought, oh, it fell over. And 2 days later, as we were reviewing the video, that's what we found. Now, can I say it was Bigfoot that did it? No, but just the fact that it was actually raised up high, and on the actual footage, when you look at it closer, you can see what looks like chest hair as it's moving it around looking at it. Next, we got the Hanobi handprint. This was a handprint that occurred during a sighting that happened with one of our younger researchers. He just so happened to be up on the ridge line just a little bit farther up from where the Hanobi Ridgewalker video was taken. And there's 4 of us, and we was all sitting there facing each other. And the whole idea is, you're not really looking at the other person, you're looking at the area behind them. And we've been pretty successful with this. We actually had seen several large figures moving down towards us, and our junior researcher was sitting there, and he happened to see a limb move up, and the wind was blowing sideways. So here's this limb moving up, and he asked for the big night scope. And we had a big night scope that was like, I mean, just a huge high-powered scope. And so we handed it to him, and just about the time that he started to look through it, a Bigfoot raised the branch and looked forward. And of course, with that scope, it looked like it was from me to Robert here from him. And we thought we was going to have to haul him down off that ridge. He was about to go into a massive fit. But during that time, we actually had our vehicles parked facing downhill, and we had seen something go in front of one of the vehicles. And when we started checking things out, we found a handprint. Now right here you can see the handprint itself, and we actually got some comparison handprints beside it to see, make sure how big it was. This kind of shows you how we was sitting. We actually, after we found the handprint, we realized that we were sitting right on a game trail that went across right there where the hood of the vehicle was. And of course up here is where he's seen the Bigfoots look out from underneath the tree branch. Here's basically how we were sitting. The Oklahoma peanut butter incident. We actually have an area that we call the bait stations. And we have put a lot of effort into baiting this area. We put out peanut butter, we put out glow sticks, we put out pinwheels, the toy pinwheels that spin around. Anything that we can do to make them curious, we try to get them down to this area. And we've been really cultivating this for a long time. Well, we took a jar of peanut butter and tied it up in a tree about 8 feet high. Took the twine, went over the tree, tied it to a log on the back of the tree there. Had a nice little boat tied to it. Well, what happened was, something had walked up, grabbed this thing, pulled it down, actually took the lid off and stuck a finger down in it. And then I guess it didn't like the taste of peanut butter because it left it laying right there. We come back a couple of weeks later, and you can't really see it because of the light. But when we looked at the peanut butter, you can see the dermal ridges from their fingerprints. It was actually inside the peanut butter. And this just goes to show that here you can see the twine coming down to the log, and we had the big bow tie to it. Whatever it was actually broke the twine. You know, we kind of figured, you know, a human, they're going to see that bow, they're going to just pull the bow tie and, you know, drop the peanut butter down. But this actually walked up and literally ripped the thread, the twine apart. The Oklahoma grass ball incident, this actually occurred with 5 of us present, including 2 senior field researchers. We had over a dozen grass balls recovered. Now what happened here was, we were at a sighting location with the landowner, and we were in a field, and his wife was sitting there playing on her cell phone and kind of lit herself up. Well, when that happened, something kept hitting her, and she thought it was maybe a bug or an insect, you know, flying around on her. Well, her son walked over and started looking, and he was going to kill that last bug that hit her. And when he was looking around, he realized, wait a minute, what the heck is that? And he held it up, and it was one of these little grass balls. I don't know if you can see it that well. Something had took grass and wadded it up and twisted it and made basically a ball out of it and was tossing them at us. And we figured that they were tossing them at her first because she was sitting there with a phone and had herself lit up. So as we're gathered around this little table here looking at these grass balls, we're all gathered around. We was kind of watching the landowner to make sure he wasn't throwing them at his wife. And all of a sudden, out of the field comes another one. And I should say this, that not more than 20 minutes before this incident happened, we seen a Bigfoot through a night scope in this field. As soon as we turned on the infrared LED on that night scope, it ducked down. Basically, remember what Carl was talking about, the little red LED? We think it's seen that and it ducked down. So after we got pelted for about a good 20 to 30 minutes, I decided to get up and walk out into the field. And most of my researchers can tell you, I hate snakes. And we're in a field where they just got through killing a couple of 8 and 7 foot rattlesnakes. So I'm kind of a little leery as I'm walking out through there. And as I walked out, a grass ball come in from the opposite side of where we were sitting. So we basically had 2 of them out there throwing grass balls at us. Can I say Bigfoot did these? No, but the fact that we seen a Bigfoot just 20 minutes before these grass balls started hitting us, you know, kind of just makes you wonder. Of course, here's the field. You see this tall grass right in here. The next day we went out and we could find trails where they were crawling through up behind these, and you could actually see where some had been picking the grass. And of course here was where the landowner's wife was sitting. They were actually coming in on top of her. Chickasaw Park thermal hit. You can't really see it. A lot of the members here on the Western team, they were a part of this. We had 2 large thermal hits down at Chickasaw National Park on the opposite side of the creek. It's kind of inconclusive because it's, you know, such a far distance away, but this is not far from where driver operator had his Chickasaw Park sighting. The Hanobi walkie-talkie incident of 2009, there's Dave, he was there with us when it happened. We had went in the field for a week before the Hanobi Bigfoot conference, and as we were going down there, one of the researchers with us lost his walkie-talkie, and Dave had some pictures in his coat pocket that fell out as we was going down through there on the trail, and he didn't realize he actually lost one on the ground. We thought we got him before he lost them. But after we got down to our location, the next morning we got up and we kept going back and through there trying to find the walkie-talkie and didn't find it. Well, for 3 days we go through that way looking for the walkie-talkie, and by the end of the 3 days we gave up on it. Well, the night of the 3rd day, driver operator Randy Harrington, he actually took a bunch of folks over to check out a new baiting station idea that he had. And as they were going around the corner, lo and behold, this is not the first one they found, but they found another one that had a plastic bag stashed in it, just a pile of rocks. So he jumped out. We got a policy of 0 trace. We don't want to leave no trash out there. So he jumped out, grabbed it, threw it in the back of the Polaris, and went on. Well, when they got over there to this location where the baiting station was, they found this rock structure with a water bottle on top of it. And my call from Texla Research, he was with them, and he got out and he started taking the rocks away. And in that rocks was a walkie-talkie. So they come back to camp, and they roared in, and they walked up to the guy that lost the walkie-talkie, and they said, "Roy, is this your walkie-talkie?" And he goes, "Yeah, where'd you find it?" And that's when they started telling us about what they found. The next day, of course, you can see a little bit closer up image of the walkie-talkie. The next day, Randy was taking the trash out of his Polaris, and when he thought, well, what's in this stack? So he looked in there just to make sure there wasn't nothing important. Well, there was a picture. So they walked up to Dave. "Dave, is this your picture?" He's like, "Yeah, where'd you find it?" They found it in this bag, and it was only, I wouldn't say more than what, 600 feet from where the other rock was. So we speculate, we can't say for sure, but you know, if a person had found that walkie-talkie, it was a high dollar walkie-talkie, they would have took it home. There was a good chance for 3 days we had a Bigfoot carrying that walkie-talkie around. And the thing was, you know, we really suspect that we had the Bigfoot following us up into our campsite. And that's why they picked up the walkie-talkie and picked up the picture. The Oklahoma Trail Cam 2010 picture. I think I'm the only one here from the Eastern group that was actually there for the investigation. This was turned into us by a landowner. this picture right here. And of course, here's basically a picture of the deer that was taken near at the same time. This picture has definitely made the rounds of the internet. We went out on site. Here's a picture of the two together, the deer and the figure. We went out and we did all kinds of measurements. We took a member of our group called Big Head. He's about, what, he's like 6'8", 6.
He's about 3-4 inches taller than me.
Yeah, he's the one guy in this group that I tell, if you're running in the woods in the middle of the night towards me, you better be screaming English, because he comes running at me, I want to start shooting at him because he's that big. Basically, there was a deer feeder here, so we took measurements from rocks, the tree, we took measurements of the winch that lowered and raised the deer feeder. We did maps of the area. We figured out where everything was coming from. We even had Big Rob, actually walking in the same spot. Well, what we did was we took all these pictures and we started pressing them down, getting them in the right pixel size, doing all the measurements, and it just didn't add up. The figure in the picture was only about maybe 5.5, 6 foot tall. So we just lucked out and had a picture of the landowner. What we did is we flipped it around, cut him out, and you notice how his shoulders are and everything, and we superimposed him over the figure. And guess what? Same size, same shape of shoulders. What has happened is, you see how it looks like fur. We've pretty much come to the conclusion that when an infrared trail cam goes off and they're wearing camouflage, it will create what looks like fur coming off of the... So basically what we was able to do is they were able to say about a 70 to 80% chance that was the landowner. We still have a little bit of a doubt because just shortly before this picture was recovered, they had a sighting of a Bigfoot in that general area. But I mean, that's the extent that we go to actually going and trying to debunk our own evidence when it's presented to us. Because if we don't do it, somebody else will, and then we'll end up looking like idiots. The Oklahoma foot investigation. I can't really see it too well, but this is a foot, or the front half of a foot, that was dried up, mummified. It was actually found by a landowner on the eastern side of Oklahoma. We've actually had it examined by a biologist, a veterinarian, and several medical personnel, and even had it x-rayed. You can't really see it, but it still even had a toenail intact. We got samples that we're trying to get, tested for DNA and everything. Can we say that's a Bigfoot foot? No, but right now, University of Oklahoma actually has it in their possession doing tests on it. So hopefully we'll find out more about that. There's just some more pictures and the x-rays. There was no bones in it. Once again, we're just speculating. We think that probably what happened was it was in a field and there was actually some hay mixed in with the foot. So we think what happened was a hay baler went through there and chopped off the front half and took it straight off the bones. Here's just a measurement of the foot. If I remember right, it was like 7.5 inches wide. Was it 7.5 inches? And it's just a huge, huge foot. Now we come to the November 2012 juvenile picture, and of course, since we don't have, it's real hard to see. Can you see it back there? Well, I'll tell you what, anybody that wants to come up here and look real quick, it's here on the screen. Huh? Actually printed out? Okay. Whoops. What happened was, Big Jim, Squatch Finder Dave over here, myself, and Compressor Mike, the guy that just got up. We actually went down to an area here in southeast Oklahoma, and we were checking out the location of one of the first sighting reports. I think it was the actual first one, wasn't it?
As far as we know of, yeah, it was the first one, pre-Civil War sighting from 1846.
So we were down in that area checking this area out, and of course Dave and Big Jim located a track and they started casting it. And Mike had went down to check out this trail that was there. So while they were doing the track, I thought, well, I'll go down there and get Mike. So I finally met up with Mike, and as we were coming back, everybody got in the vehicles, was getting ready to leave, was going to come back later that night to pick up the cast. Well, here Mike and Jim started turning around, and I just happened to look at that trail, and I seen something dark, and I was like, Dave, do you see what I see at the trail? He goes, yeah. So we stopped the guys, and they got out and started looking. I took these two pictures with my iPhone, and at the time we didn't see the juvenile going across the trail. But we actually, when we got back and started looking at the pictures, that's when we realized that there was one going across the track, or the trail there. It looks just like a small gorilla on all fours going across the trail. What we believe, based on the fact that we seen the adult, was that it was over here with one of the other adults and decided they wanted to come over here where the other adult was, so it was coming across the trail. I just happened to catch it with those two pictures. Jim took some pictures just right after that, and you can't even see it in the trail. It had already made it across. So that's basically, here's kind of what it looked like as it was going across, just like a small gorilla. Here you can see Mike, he's hunkered down. You can't really see it too well, but if I remember right, it's right up in here is what we was looking for. So hopefully we'll be able to get back down in that area and do some more research in that area. February 2012 expedition handprints. Just a few months ago, we actually had two separate incidents, two separate nights. We had two handprints. One was Robert's here. The other one was Dave. They woke up. Robert found a handprint on his hood, and of course he photographed that, measured it. The next morning, David slept in his vehicle, but on his hood was, guess what? Almost the same size handprint going across his hood. Now, can we speculate a little bit? Yeah, we might speculate a little bit. I think while Dave was sleeping, getting his beauty sleep, there's probably a Bigfoot looking at him through the window. So. Now, here is the Oklahoma Trail Cam picture 2012. This was recovered a week ago. This is at a research area that belongs to one of our researchers. We've had these trail cams up there for about a year now. The whole theory was, during the drought, there's a large pond up there, so we thought, well, we'll put trail cams around it and see what kind of wildlife we catch coming up to it. They also have an old abandoned house on the backside of the property. And in one of our research areas, we speculated that some of the abandoned houses are being used whenever bad weather sets in by Bigfoot. Well, we put this trail cam out in front of the house, aimed at the door. Something tore the back window off and started crawling through the window. So we said, okay, well, fine. We moved the cameras inside and hid them inside the house. Well, the researcher's been sick, so we haven't been able to go back and check on them. We finally went up there and checked on them last week, and this is what we found inside the house. Now, I don't know how well you can see it, but here's the outline of whatever it is standing there. If you look real close, you'll see the hair on the side of the arm. We went back up and we took measurements. And of course, here's some different filters that we applied to the picture. Can't really see it too well, but you can see texture of the fur right here, different colors and stuff. And right here is where it starts to come up for the neck. So then we took and went up there and took some comparison pictures. We lined up the frame here, pixel for pixel. This is where the figure is. And of course you can see where the rest of the house is. This thing we estimate to be 6 to 7 feet tall. And you can't really see it too well, but right here's the arm. There's a space underneath the arm where it was standing. So, and of course you've got our different transparencies here to kind of give you an idea of where everything was at. So, that was the big discovery here last weekend. We're getting ready to go back up there for the next few weekends with thermals, and might even sit inside the house and see what walks in on us. Of course, I want to say thank you for being here today. You can visit us online at midamericabigfoot.com. Our Oklahoma Bigfoot Symposium, we've got a website for that. We're getting ready to flesh it out with all of our speakers and stuff. Also, you can follow us on Facebook. We've got a MABRC page there. And outside of that, hopefully we'll see everybody there at Stillwell, Oklahoma on October the 6th. It's going to be a pretty good event.